Good morning, Thomasina, Ivzy, Greg. Oh, good to have you three with us. It's going to be a light group today, apparently. Anyway, hope everybody had a good trading session out there today. Crypto's had a nice little bounce, and we had some nice moves in commodities. And I'll say maybe a decoupling of, or maybe it's a recoupling of a historic correlation that normally follows the test of time, but lately that correlation has been broken, and I'll talk about that on today's show. So hope you guys all are ready for a good one. Feel free to send in your questions. As you know, you can always email me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com, but if you're watching this one live, as most of you probably are, then I would encourage you to send those in the chat, and if you do, put question marks before it so I have the opportunity to answer right away. All right, I'm going to start things off with this bad boy here, which is a question from Carol. This is steered the show today. Carol says, I sold all of our gold in September 2020, and I would like to buy back in soon. Where would you say is a good buy? And a question that came in probably a month ago was from Don't You Think It's Time? He said, do a show about futures markets on gold and breakout opportunities or ATR movements in gold. All right, well, why don't we do that today and talk a show about gold breakout? Notice the question mark and the exclamation point. We've been talking about this on the program for quite some time and drawing little yellow boxes around the price chart of gold because it's really just been stuck in this weird little sideways range for a month now. And I know some people wanting to wave the flag of eternal bullishness, some feeling very bearish on it. Bottom line is it's really about letting price tell you what to do. Now, I'll bring up the price chart here so you guys can see. This is where we finished at today with gold futures. All right, this is the June 21st contract, but I have it as continuous just to make it smooth so we can see all the historical numbers. Looks pretty good right now. I wrote the breakout there as far as the eye catcher for today's show because I think you guys will notice we've had this box mapped out for quite a while now, and it's basically just been bouncing back and forth between the highs and lows. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to be overly bullish at this point, but it does tell us that it is showing some strength, and it is at a point historically where sellers pushed it down, at least for the last month. So, what do we make of this? Well, to go back to Carol's question about wanting to buy back in, I guess it's ultimately where you feel comfortable buying back in and how much lower do you think that gold is going to go. If you felt it was going to continue to drop, obviously stay out. But what we're seeing right now is something rather interesting, at least with regards to trading patterns and psychology. Why? Well, if you look at the price right now in that yellow box, let me zoom in here. You'll notice that today we actually did break above it. A small little tail, but it's still closed right at those highs. Just so we can give you exact numbers, the high that we achieved back on the 18th of March on the GC contract, that was $1,756.60. What we hit today on the closing price was $1,756.50. So we're pretty much the exact same number that we hit is right where we're closed at. So is it over? Are we done with the downtrend? Do we see a huge move up here in gold from this point? I don't know. What I would anticipate happening is a breakout above this for tomorrow. And I think, well, obviously, this is a wait-and-see action. You could buy the breakout right away if you wanted to. That might be a little bit risky, but hey, you know what? It all depends on your trading style and what's in your plan. But if you bought the breakout, my guess is you'll probably see it rally up to somewhere around 1,800, right? There's actually a fairly strong confluence, and confluence, for those that don't know what confluence is, it's where you have kind of a level on a level, multiple zones mapped out, and right around that 1,800 on gold is a pretty good area where I see multiple levels on different time frames lining up. So back to the chart. My guess is you'll probably see it break here, rally up to maybe 1,800, but eventually I think you'll see a retest of this 1,750 mark, right? I think it'll shoot up and then have a little retest there of it, and then we'll really get the chance to make a more decisive opinion about it. That said, it's about time that gold has shown a little bit of strength. This, as you can see here, since August through now, it's just been making lower highs and lower lows, so obviously not very good for anybody who's a gold bug. Now, to further maybe draw attention to this one, I want you guys to notice, when did we officially turn on the gold price chart? You'll see here the red candle started on gold on August 7th of 2020. Is there anything out there for our limited group that's with us today? Is there anything out there that you think you might want to watch that could potentially be a leading indicator for gold, right? Obviously, gold is critical, but there are others. There are some companies out there that could be very, very influenced by the price of gold and have a better pulse as to what the supply numbers are, extraction numbers are. And I know some people might be typing in here the dollar. We're looking at the miners, right? The miners obviously impacted significantly by the price of gold. So what I thought was interesting is, if you notice that the gold price chart turned on the 7th of August. So let's look up gold miners, which is GDX, right? Here's your GDX. And those started to turn on the 5th of August. So 2 days before we started to see the big sell-off in gold, the miners started their decline. And we could also go and look at GDXJ, which is, GDXJ. These are the miners, which are smaller cap gold companies. That also started 2 days before. Not like it's a major leading indicator, but anytime that you're thinking of looking at these relationships and saying, hey, this could be impacted by something else, or is there something that may be a leading indicator, gold miners certainly could be one. Naum is right. I think the dollar is also a pretty important one in this. So let's take a look at the dollar as well. So let's go to the dollar sign, D to the X to the Y. Now, as most of you know, there is historically an inverse relationship between gold and the dollar, right? A weak dollar means that foreign investments can buy more dollars, or buy more gold because they can buy more with more dollars. So for the gold price to surge, obviously you would be thinking the dollar would be dropping. Now that's what's been happening over the past 5 days. You guys can see on this price chart here, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down days and 7 down days, but 2 of those were green candles. So all in all, it's been a 7-day slide to the south for the dollar index. Now, that historically would mean a nice surge up in gold prices. Well, let's see. I think you guys can see that right there. It's been about a 7-day surge up in gold prices. So the relationship is intact, but I thought it would be interesting for you guys to know and to observe the relationships here. So let me go out and show you the historic. Well, this is what it's done for the past 30 days. So you have to look at different market relationships here. Obviously, as I mentioned, the inverse relationship between gold and the dollar. Here is the highlighted column. This is, oh, dab nabbit. It's not going to be easy for me. I'm going to do the gold right here. I'll highlight the GC, and we will run it all the way over. Everything in blue, that's the gold. And you notice here that there's a negative 63% correlation to the dollar index, the DX. Right? That's historical. That's the way that it should be. But what's been very interesting, at least from my perspective, is if this is the last 30 days. If we look at this over the last 180 days, so you're looking at 6 months, and I do the exact same thing, and we'll go down here. Where did I find my gold? There's GC. Notice when I scroll over, it's correlated, not inversely correlated, but actually directly correlated to gold. So for the past 6 months, it's been kind of broken. That historical relationship that dollar has had with gold, where they're usually inverse, it was not for the past 6 months. Now, right now, if you look at that 30-day, you can see that it's actually starting to get back to normal, and here it is here at negative 63%. This is the way that it's supposed to be. So I think things are starting to get back on track. The big challenge here, if you go back to the historical relationship here, is if we, in fact, see the dollar index, which is the dollar DXY, right, continue to drop, then great. Gold should break out strongly and continue to move to the upside here. However, dollar is in a trend of its own, and it looks a little bit stronger. I don't need no updates, TradeStation, leave me alone. Dollar is looking strong, and it really is about what happens with this dollar index. So, as I mentioned, if gold breaks, 1800 looks like a pretty logical target. That said, if we look at a target for the US dollar, you're looking at this, it's not much lower. It's just slightly lower than where it's at, call it 91.75. And that could be the piece where all of a sudden bounces the dollar back up. So we've got these historical relationships starting to get back into norm, which is gold and the dollar being inverse. And you also have the dollar coming into an area of demand and gold potentially coming into an area of supply going forward. So there you go. Let's see. I see some comments in here. They not yield curve. Yeah, right. Well, we knew that they would at some point, Brendan. We knew that the Fed wouldn't let that get out of hand because it could cause market chaos. And yeah, the Dixie's been tanking for a few days though. Like this has certainly been a talk track for a while. Now here's the look at the 10-year real quick. You know, you can see that all of a sudden prices have been jumping. So this has been in the works for a few days now. We just now get the end results and the notifications made by our central bankers. But yeah, the price of the bonds spiked up today. And of course, that means that the yields were dropping, which is exactly what they had to do. All right. Yeah, Jamie Demon. I like that. That's a good one. Might be his new tag name. Okay, so gold breakout anyway. I personally think we're about to see it. I know Brendan probably has been saying that for a while. You love gold anyway, but you look at this price chart. It's stabilized at least for the past month. If we can get a close above that 1750 mark, I mean, it closed above 1750 today, but I want to see it above that 1756. Then I think that our perspectives don't turn into, raging bull, but at least moves from a neutral stance to bearish, which is what it was, neutral to bearish, to a more bullish, slightly bullish stance until we start to make higher lows. Right now we're making the same lows. So all in all, I think it looks actually pretty decent for gold going forward. When we look at gold though, gold is pretty much the ugliest of the bunch. You know, you look at silver. I'm much more bullish on silver, even though the picture doesn't look nice. It's basically a giant sideways traversing action that's been down for 2 months. I'm more optimistic on silver long term. Part of that is, I know it sounds stupid, but I think there's so many new retail traders coming into the market that are going to look at GLD and go, I can't afford that, but I can afford silver at a much cheaper price. It's just the silliness of price action and behavior there. So yeah, silver's been doing decent. And then you look at the price chart of, let's go look at, let me see here. I always forget which account I'm on. Platinum, for example, has been doing great. Now, it has been a little bit of a 2-month chop sideways, but overall, that long-term trend on platinum has been pretty darn good since those markets bottomed out in March of last year. All right, what else do I got? Questions from you guys? Do I have any? OTA guys starting to add shorts on GC as well. Load them up, Chris. Load them up. Our government passes the new $2.2 trillion infrastructure bill. Will that weaken the dollar or not? Richard, in theory, it should have a tremendous weakening effect on the U.S. dollar. However, the question always is it already priced in? This is going back to some questions I've received recently about some cannabis stocks. Like, well, why isn't it soaring given the mergers with Tilray? Because for the most part, most of that is already priced in. At least that's the excuse that everybody will use if they can't figure out exactly what's going on. They'll say, it's already priced in. If you look at that dollar index, and mind you, I don't think that you're going to see $2.2 trillion push through. My guess is you'll probably get somewhere around 1.6, 1.5. There will be some pushback, right? You're not going to get just a straight rollover. And of course, like I've made the comment before, it's like negotiating, purchasing anything around the world, right? You start off, they offer you a really high price and you go, no. And the rule of thumb, for those of you who ever traveled through like Southeast Asia, someone says, hey, this is, it's $1,000 worth and I want $1,000. You just automatically offer them half. And they say, okay, I'll give you $500 for it. And then they're going to come back with what? $750. And then you go, look, I'll do $625 and that's it. And you end up with $625. I think this is be the same way that happens with this $2 trillion bill. We'll probably see something. Bottom line is, though, tons of money will be pouring into the economy, which could theoretically create some more inflationary pressure and put weakness on the dollar. So, yeah, I do think that is a little bit of a wild card here. We could make the argument that was announced last Wednesday, and the dollar's been selling off pretty much ever since that announcement was made by President Biden. So who knows what ultimately will happen with that. But yes, if it does go through, there should be, I can't say it will because it's so definitive, there should be some downside pressure here. And as Brendan posted in the chat, the dollar index is going below 88 this year. If they do another $2 trillion, I don't see that being a tough challenge to hit. We'd be getting below 88. I'll zoom out here and maybe have to switch this over to a monthly so you guys can see the longer term picture here. But ultimately coming back and challenging these lows that go all the way back into 2018, which really isn't that much lower. All right, let's see. I believe platinum is seasonal. Yeah. Well, I think all have some semblance of seasonality. Gold is seasonal as well. Talking about the Indian wedding seasons and things like that. But I don't think it's as seasonal as something like gold. But I could be wrong. It's not one that I have a deep relationship with. Never actually traded platinum futures. I've traded gold, I've traded silver, but I don't know why I never got into the platinum side of things. Okay, so what did I want to show you? We talked about gold. We talked about the miners being a potential impact here, and also what I think is slightly leading that charge for gold to the upside. The big wild card going forward is going to be what's going to happen with, obviously, with stimulus, and what is going to be happening with that US dollar. Because, of course, if that dollar continues to slide, that should obviously be very good for gold and other commodities out there, but we'll have to wait and see how it all pans out. Those relationships that historically have been in place have been broken for 6 months or more. When you look at that research site I was just showing you, it's called More Research. It's great. It's a great resource for you that's free. Just go to mrci.com. This is basically comparing all the different futures together. So if you're looking for how something relates to something else, well, this is the easy way to do it if you're a futures trader especially. But even if you're trading ETFs on some of these, you can look and see how those relationships historically have performed. And here, right now, I'm looking at it on the last 180 days. Sorry, this is 30 days. But up at the top, you can change it to different durations. I'd love to see it on the last year. But really, in the last 30 days, it started to correct itself, and all of a sudden looking much better with regards to correlations that historically have been in place. Yeah, Daniel says that silver's correlation to gold the last 30 days has been non-existent. You know what? I think that part of the problem here is, Bitcoin and digital assets. I know it sounds weird. We've talked about this before, but I do believe that a little bit of the weakness that you're seeing in gold is people saying, do I want to buy physical gold or do I want to buy digital gold, which is now what people are saying Bitcoin is. So I think part of the damaging slide we've seen in gold has been because of that. You know, it's not as severe in something like silver. You don't see Litecoin take, well, I guess you are seeing Litecoin take off, but silver is not dropping to the same degree that we're seeing gold sell off. Inflation, everything. I don't know, Adam. And this is the tough part here because my schooling and most of our schooling, if you have a finance degree and you've gone to didn't let me know I had the white shirt on. Let me doesn't look as cheesy. Why? Look in the mirror next time, Earl. How about that? Looking better. If you look at inflation, historically, Keynesian economics, which is pretty much every university out there, tells you and teaches you that when you have a huge influx of money like this, you're going to get inflation. And if it's a ton of money coming in, you're going to get hyperinflation. Have you guys seen it that extreme? I mean, I'm waiting to see, Zimbabwe type inflation numbers or Argentina's type inflation numbers. But unfortunately, fortunately, we're not seeing those. And that could be because of deceptive number reporting by the different agencies, which I believe is a big factor in it. Or maybe we were just taught incorrectly. And I don't know. I can't make that statement because my gut tells me we're going to see inflation. I believe we are seeing inflation in a variety of different markets and instruments. But I think that's offset by huge improvements in cost in electronics and things like that, which of course is a major factor in CPI and PPI calculations. So there we go. BTC herd. I am definitely part of the Bitcoin herd. I have to admit. Next week will obviously be very, very exciting with regards to Coinbase's IPO and then how that's all perceived. It should be a pretty exciting one. Do you know anything about fundamental bull arguments for the USD? Why? Economy's in free fall. I would argue that's not necessarily true. The economy's not in free fall. It's not looking great, but it's certainly getting better. Money purchase will keep debasing currency. Debt is unsustainable. I agree. But debt has been unsustainable as long as I've been alive. And it just keeps on becoming greater debt, and they'll just keep printing more. So at some point, this will culminate and explode. I don't think it'll happen in my lifetime. I mean, it hasn't happened so far. We've seen some crashes, but that wasn't because of a debt crisis, right? You had some financial crisis, you had a dot-com bubble, you had a pandemic flash crash. For the most part, I don't see the debt being an issue. I know personally that it's out of line, right? We should not have this much debt. Unfortunately, it is crazy, but I don't see the economy being that poor right now. How can an economy be that poor when we're getting close to $10 trillion being pumped into the market in a year and a half? I mean, that's a pretty big injection, right? I mean, that's like you're just mainlining heroin if you're a drug addict. I mean, that's a big pump to the system right there. You're going to show some reaction to it, and the numbers may not be sustainable because of that injection of capital, But right now, it's not as bad as it was, and it's not that not that bad. Now, you did see today's numbers with regards to initial unemployment claims. That had a pretty big spike. It was 60,000 more than expected. We were supposed to go from, I think it was 714. They were expecting to go to 680. And we came out at 740, if these numbers off the top of my head, if I remember correctly. So that obviously is not a good sign. I was actually anticipating them dropping faster because things are opening up all across the board. I don't know if you guys saw the Texas Rangers game the other night. You had a full capacity baseball game. Talk about a super spreader event. Hey, it is what it is. We'll have to wait and see what the results of that are. But I think you'll start to see more and more opening up. And if that does, you have an economy getting back on track, plus all that stimulus. Man, it's hard to refute the argument that we could see a gigantic, massive bull market rally. Brennan says, fake boost to people's net worth. It is. It's a huge fake boost to people's net worth. However, those that are astute and smart with money are doing what they can to lock in some of that net worth. There you go. What else we got? Fiscal freebasing. That's a good way to put it. It's fiscal freebasing. Yes, and Brendan, I know I see your argument, and you're right. It is strange that we saw that big of a number, but when you have that much capital behind these markets and an unrelenting Fed that's going to keep on printing and printing and printing until they get what they want, it's hard to think that these markets are going to crash down. All right. What else did I have? There was one other question that came in. One or two. I think I wrote them on here. No, just one other that came in. So let me get to this one question here. And that one was this one. Lee says, what are your thoughts on Pioneer Natural Resources? Well, obviously, on the same vein that we've been talking about gold and silver and platinum, those are all should benefit from a weakening dollar. If we do get stimulus, I do believe you see that dollar start to get weaker and weaker and weaker. So obviously that's going to have a positive impact on dollar-denominated commodities, which crude oil is one. If I'm not mistaken, Pioneer Natural Resources, they're doing oil exploration, natural gas. That's their main bread and butter. So let me bring up a price chart for you. Let's see. Pioneer is PXD. Please be PXD. Yeah, there you go. So here's Pioneer Natural Resources on a monthly time frame. I'll switch this over to a daily so we can get a nice perspective there. Wow. I hate to say it. I like this one. And here's the reason why. I'm going to put a line right across those, right about there. You almost came into an area that I'd be considering buying at on PXD. Main reason is we've been on this nice stretch of an uptrend. I've only got this chart going back to October of last year, but you guys can see higher highs, higher lows, trend is intact. Here's a pullback into a demand zone. So to me, that actually looks like a fairly decent zone, and I am bullish on energy going forward. Again, I think that the costs of energy are going to rise due to international tensions with Russia and others. So I think Pioneer Natural Resources, all in all, is probably looking fairly decent here from a buy perspective. I don't know much about the fundamentals because I'm not really a fundamentals guy. But Lee, I actually feel okay, especially right now as a buy point. The challenge with buying PXD right now is where do you put your stop loss, right? Because if you're buying it, you kind of look over here on the left and you look at this long bottoming tail on this candle that formed on the 26th of February of this year. That's a pretty substantial range. I mean, the low of that candle is 141.28. If you're buying, let's say at 149, you're looking at an $8 stop loss. That's pretty significant. It's a pretty big stop loss. So you might have to switch this into a smaller time frame and look intraday to find a better opportunity. But I do like the way it's selling off into an area of demand. Volume isn't that high, so nothing to write home about with volume there. It's just kind of normal volume. But all in all, Lee, I'm okay with this one. All right. What do I see going on here? Merlin, sooner or later, everyone who wants a job will not be able to get one because there will not be enough to go around. Well, in theory, I would contend that one, Richard. And the only reason I would contend that is if we're in a situation right now where I'm going to just use arbitrary numbers to make the example easy. But let's say you've got 1 million jobs right now, right? And you've got 1 million people looking for them. If all those people go and try to get, if our 1 million people try to get that 1 million jobs, you would have full employment. But what's going to happen is, as all those people are getting jobs, that's a sign that the economy is starting to move, that's heated up, right? If you have full employment, that means things are cooking, which means that those businesses will be expanding. And where they may have been looking to hire one employee before, business might be so good that now they're going to be hiring 2 employees. So all of a sudden, that the number of jobs will start to inflate and get bigger and bigger. So I think the challenge is not that there won't be jobs. I think there will always be jobs. I think the problem is you have a whole segment of the economy, and I apologize for those that think I'm going to be way too condescending here, is you've got a bunch of lazy-ass people out there who'd much rather sit on their butts and collect unemployment checks because, hey, I can make a few $100s a week for doing literally nothing. You know, that to me is, I would call that anti-American or un-American. You know, to me, the American dream is to, everybody has a job, or everybody has the dream to achieve whatever they want. You can be anything you want. So seize that opportunity. Work, get a job, take other jobs, multiple jobs, find alternative streams of income, find ways to grow your wealth. That to me is the American dream and what we should all be doing. But man, I tell you, I know a few people personally that every time I have a conversation with them, I just want to just, come on, man, quit being lazy and just taking free handouts. That's not what this is about. This is about, if you are getting any of this money, it's about utilizing it to make your life better at that moment in time. And better doesn't mean going out and buying the new Madden 2021. It's about putting that money to use, whether it's paying down your debt, helping out the family in some way, or investing that and growing it into something better. You know, the numbers are always funny when you see people get that $1,200 stimulus check. I forgot what it was, but somebody said if you put the first stimulus check that you got in the bank, it'd be worth like $7,000, or not in bank, in Bitcoin, it'd be worth like $7,000 right now. Leighton says, not if the small employer is priced out of the market. That's true. But of course, what would the employee, you mean priced out because of the employment or just crushed by competition? Well, then we change our model internally and make those numbers work for us. But I think we'll have plenty of jobs. And I think, Richard, the second comment you made here, higher skilled labor force is needed to compete with other countries. Correct. Not everyone's going to have the jobs they had before, but we can at least get back on track and get that engine running again, right? To me, it's like having a dead battery and all of a sudden you're trying to start the car back up. It takes a second for things to get all the way back to normal for that car to run normal again. And I think our economy just had a little bit of a shock to the system here with the pandemic. Remember, we're not the only ones who have been struggling through this, so everybody has a similar situation of job destruction and now challenged with job creation. And are those people that lost their jobs before going to be back in those same positions, or are they taking jobs where they're maybe not qualified for, or et cetera? All right, what do I got? No, I'm not going to go into socialism. All right, I think that's you guys any questions for me as we go through this? We went on a political turn here, which I really didn't want to do. I don't like talking politics in the show. It just polarizes and makes people enemies of people. Ren says, if these government clowns are smart, they'd realize things like Bitcoin and free markets are how we will prevent China from crushing us. Well, they make the argument that China is controlling Bitcoin. So many people now are starting to feel like this is a trap, that if we all become a world reserve currency using something like Bitcoin, then all of a sudden, China has most of the mining farms in the world, and we could find ourselves in a very ugly situation. So who knows? These are all hypotheses and not mine. I don't believe that. I do think we'll have a digital currency. I do believe we'll have a I believe in 10 years, the reserve currency of the world will be a digital asset. I don't think it'll be Bitcoin, but I think it'll be something that has limited supply, and it will maybe not necessarily be a central bank controlled thing, but that would be that's a battle, right? If for central banks to give up the power to print money and manipulate their currency and help their economies or hurt their economies, that's a big power, and a decentralized currency like Bitcoin is a big threat to that system. Does RTY look set up to run at the highs? All right, let's get back on track and talk about markets. So when we look at what happened out there today, NASDAQ obviously looking great. I do like the fact that NASDAQ, if you're ever thinking of shorting NASDAQ, I know some people have been asking about shorting it, and I've been saying be very careful. Now looks like a better time to short. I mean, you're coming into all-time highs. Again, if you are thinking of shorting all-time highs here, it's always dangerous, but it is coming into that supply level. So if you do, make sure you have a stop loss above it. For those... Yes, Richard says, are you sitting under a sun lamp? No, what happens is, you notice if I move, what happens is this color correction on this camera I'm using, so all of a sudden I turn, you see how it just shifts right there? I'll move back and I'll move forward. it changes colors, and all of a sudden sometimes they go really red, and it's a horrible camera. So I'm reaching out to a buddy of mine this weekend, and hopefully change this camera to a much more, it's a professional one I bought with contributions from you guys years ago. Not years ago, but last year. And then I'm going to take this one and use it for the side area over here so I can have a drawing wall. So no, I'm not, no. Nope, didn't get burned. Anyway, I'm going to do the markets here real quick, and I'll go back to, I see a bunch of questions. I'll try to get to all of them. Yeah, so you have NASDAQ. You would look at this and you think it's the strongest one. It's not. S&P is clearly the lead dog right now, and it is just blasting through all-time highs, looking phenomenal, all right? So when we look at these three indexes, you've got the S&P number 1, NASDAQ number 2, and then Russell, it's like it feels like it wants to run, but it just can't seem to do anything for the past 2-3 months, right? It's really not doing much. Now, you do have a bullish Harami today, but it's really not that significant. I'll be honest, I'm not really that optimistic on Russell 2000 here. If everything else is ripping to either all-time highs or at all-time highs, and Russell's just kind of floundering and didn't have that great of a move today, I don't know. I'm not that optimistic on it getting back up to the all-time high. Certainly if the trends continue to these major indexes, yes, Russell will get to that all-time high at 2350 and change, but it just doesn't feel like it wants to, right? I mean, just look at the price chart. It really does not look like it wants to hit those all-time highs. All right, Edward A. Let me go back to Edward A's question. Can someone sell Bitcoin anytime and get cash, like your example of a stimulus? Now, yes, sure. So it all depends on where you have your account set up. So, for example, I showed you my Coinbase account, and I'll bring it up here real quick. Yeah, you can sell and convert back to cash. Now, I made the argument the other day that when you open up your brokerage firm, one of the key things for me with cryptos is I want to make sure that I can have what's called an ACH. ACH is simply a transfer mechanism to go from your personal accounts to your crypto accounts. So when I go over here, let me go see, I don't know how much I have here at Coinbase. So right now, ooh, looking nice. Got about $46,000 at Coinbase, okay? So here's the different assets I have there. All right, I've got Ripple, which I can't sell right now because it's locked. But let's say I wanted to get rid of some of this Dash, okay? If I click here, I can go and sell. No, I don't want to send it. I want to sell it. Let me go back here to portfolio, and I click on Dash. I can buy and sell. So I can sell Dash right here, and you see it says deposit to cash USD. So I can do that, or I can have it go. Oh, actually, it's okay. It's not through a separate transaction. Anyway, I would sell it and convert it to USD. So all I have to do is hit that button, and this will switch over to USD. Then, once I'm there, you can just go into your settings, which I'm not going to because I think it shows some account stuff, and then you just transfer back to your bank account. It's really simple, right, to get it back into your bank account. So, yeah, if someone had that, like I mentioned, a $1,200 stimulus check, they put it into Bitcoin, it's now worth whatever, $5 or $7 grand. They could right now, if they wanted to, simply sell it. Right, sell that Bitcoin and convert that cash right back. There are some limits on this. So there's different degrees of qualification for exchanges. For example, you can have your driver's license. Some will require you to put in your social security number. And each level of information that you give them, you can buy and sell and transfer more per day. For example, Kraken, I think the limit was $5,000 per day. Then if you give them your social security number, which they should have anyway for tax reasons, then you can do a lot more. I think it's $50,000 a day. So yes, you can pull that money out right away. Oh, there you go. Hopefully I answered that question. Edward, take profit Friday likely. Alan, I don't know. I mean, I look at what's gone on this week. Take a peek at I'll look at the S&P. I do think you'll probably see a little bit of a sell-off. I mean, obviously tomorrow is Friday, so it doesn't give us much time. But I do think you'll see a little bit of a breather because it's been a hell of a week. Watch when I put this on a weekly. That acceleration, you've got 3 weeks in a row of just really strong move. And I'll show you the percentages here on the S&P 500. Just from the peak to the trough of the last 3 days, you're talking a 6.6% move. Remember, the average annual return for the S&P 500 in a year is about 8 to 10%. You're doing 6.6 in 3 days. I mean, I think we'd all agree that's probably a bit of a stretch. So yes, I do think you'll probably see some profit taking. But remember, not all markets look the same. Look at the Russell, right? Russell's got a down week. You look at NASDAQ. NASDAQ's got a huge bullish week, third one in a row. Gold. Well, gold finally has a nice positive week, but the week is not over yet. So, yeah, I do think you'll see a little bit of profit taking on Friday for the S&P 500. What else do I got? Also, we're just about the weekly expected move. Also, high open interest on 4,100. Yeah, unfortunately, that's not something I look at, Alan, but cool. What else do I got? So, should we say because of political reasons we should interfere with the Bitcoin free market? No. But you know they will. You know they will. Yes, Leighton. Coinbase has its IPO next week. And the valuations have been just unbelievable. So the initial number I was hearing was supposed to be like $100 was the initial IPO price. Now you're hearing $350 because they had just blowout earnings. So right now they're doing a masterful job of doing what market makers usually do and institutions and underwriters, which is pump it. Get everyone really, really, really excited about Coinbase, which is fine with me because I didn't buy Coinbase, nor will I. I'm just a little too skeptical on chasing and paying an overinflated price. But I think that the euphoria that ties into Coinbase will spread into some of the other exchange offerings. Like I told you, I've been looking at Backed, BAKKT, which is being purchased by VIH. VIH has been doing pretty good over the past few days. Let me go to the .D. So here's your daily of VIH. And you can see off those lows, it was at 11 and change. Now you're at 1481 in the better part of a week and a half. So my assumption would be you'll probably see a nice little move up here in VIH as Coinbase comes out because they're buying another exchange. They're bringing another exchange to market. Richard says 350 to 0 overnight. I really doubt that, Richard. I highly recommend. We'll talk about this on the 13th show, but I think what would be entertaining for everybody here is just sit back and watch that morning. It'll probably be the most exciting thing to happen at 6:30 in the morning on the 14th of April. It'll be all over the place. I mean, you're going to see massive swings in this thing. You usually do with IPOs, but because of all the attention on Coinbase right now, this will be a monster mover. I mean, it could open at 350, bounce all the way up to $600, and then drop to 100. Who knows? It's just going to be a crazy wild ride. All right, what else do I got? Bitcoin versus gold. I'll go. Do you think the gold rally is more associated with the falling dollar or bulls seeking other assets in extended market? I think it has a bit to do with the dollar. I also think it has a lot to do with the impending, well, not impending, this is the wrong term, but the uncertainty going forward, right? Right now we're pretty much throwing everything at a wall to see what sticks from a political perspective. So I think that part of it is the weakening dollar. I think another part of it is maybe a little bit of concern about what's going on in the future. And also, it's down a lot. I mean, gold's sold off quite a bit for a physical, tangible asset. So I think that part of it's people just buying back in, especially if we get above that high we talked about from a couple weeks ago. Then all of a sudden you have that potential double bottom breakout, and then you'll see this thing start to run a little bit. How high? I don't know. I'm not jumping on that bandwagon yet. So we should really buy high and sell low, huh? No. You can buy high and sell higher, but no, it was a recipe for disaster. Did I say something wrong on that one, Leighton? I think I did. All right, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. I'm going to wrap this one early. I'm like I said, I'm trying to get this back to a 30-minute show, but it'll probably end up being 45, but I got a bunch of stuff I got to take care of today. So let me show you economic calendar for tomorrow, and we'll go into that. Nope, no, wrong screen. All right, so here's really the only important things happening tomorrow. Oh, Fabiano, and you tagged me in a Shiba group, man. Those people are just, you talk about brainwashed people. That whole group of Shiba coin buyers, oh my goodness, get away from that stuff. Jeez Louise. It's hilarious listening to people talk about that damn stupid Shiba coin. 1 quadrillion coins? Wow. Okay, so here's your economic calendar for the 9th of April. Really, the most important stuff, or the bigger stuff, is going to be down here near the bottom. You've got, for Canada, their employment change tomorrow. You also have unemployment rate, which is expected to drop a little bit, but still at a fairly lofty 8%. For the U.S. dollar, you've got PPI numbers, which, again, is historically an inflationary measure. Right? Inflationary measure, I don't really put too much emphasis on the PPI numbers. I actually like to look at the report, break it down to see what is being said inside the report, meaning where's the inflation actually rearing its ugly head and showing up. So that's coming out tomorrow. Right now they're expecting to be 0.5%, which is higher than normal. Usually it's 0.2 to 0.3, but we'll see if that number comes out higher than expected, which would mean we see some inflation coming in. You also have final wholesale inventories coming out for the U.S. markets. Brendan says, and I thought Doge people were nuts. They're nuts, but boy, here's the crazy thing. We can, and maybe we should do it one day. I'll just do a show where we create our own cryptocurrency. You can do it very easily, especially if you're going to do a token, right? We can create a digital token, plug it directly into the Ethereum blockchain, and call it something and just have some fun with this thing. But yeah, that Shiba coin is just ridiculous. 1 quadrillion. And then you have people in the room in this group going, oh, it's going to get to $1. It's going to get to $1. It's like, you are, I mean, whatever you're smoking, I would never want to touch that because that's some bad stuff. I mean, you are in bad thing. Because if it got to $1, that means it would have a market capitalization of 1 quadrillion. I don't think that if you took every country's GDP or even the available amount of money in circulation, we're talking all of every country around the world, hell, throw in freaking aliens at this point, add their monetary system to it, that you would get to a $1 quadrillion economy. It's just nuts. But anyway, they were insane, but it is rather entertaining. But boy, they're drinking some crazy Kool-Aid out there. Like, I bought 800 million of these things. Like, okay, what was that, 7 cents? Good luck. Alan says, are they stupid or geniuses? Hey, you know what? They might be. Maybe I'm the one who's being ignorant and just unwilling to accept it. But seeing what I've seen in all the crypto space, I look at that one and I'm just like, wow. Somebody created this coin because of Dogecoin. They have a Shiba, which is the Shiba Inu, which is the Dogecoin mascot, and they're just trying to capitalize on it. Brendan says, I really do think Bitcoin is going to about $1 million a token eventually. Well, remember, Bitcoin is not a token. Bitcoin is a coin. For those that don't know, a coin and a token are two completely separate things. A coin is a cryptocurrency that has its own blockchain. A token is something that attaches to somebody else's blockchain. So almost actually everything that's using Ethereum is a token, right? Ethereum is a coin because it's its own blockchain. You look at Bitcoin, it's its own blockchain, therefore it's a coin, not a token. Anyway. Semantics. Just correct that. Education is important for everybody, right? No problem, Brendan. You know. Let's see. Can you put a limit on the coin? Yes, absolutely. I can put a limit on the coin. I'll research it. When I was building the cryptocurrency class for Online Trading Academy, which, by the way, was probably going to come back to life here soon, after kicking and screaming and literally yelling at people going, why are we not putting this class out there? They're like, hey, I got a good idea. Let's make a cryptocurrency class. And I'm like George Costanza's dad, serenity now, serenity now. Anyway, I am adding some modifications to that cryptocurrency course, which will be looking at things like NFT, looking at staking, and some of the other newer developments in that cryptocurrency space, especially the DeFi segment of the market. So that's hopefully will come up here soon. I think they're talking about June being the release of the first class for that one, so that should be fairly exciting. Alan says, how come Doge people aren't selling? Well, how come Doge people aren't selling? It's the same reason Bitcoin people aren't selling or Ethereum people aren't selling. It's the hodlers, right? We all are thinking there's a much bigger goal and target for the ecosystem of digital assets. Right now, I read a report somewhere that said the amount of users in the crypto space, and this was a couple weeks ago, is equivalent to what the amount of people using the internet were in 1995 or 96. 95, 96, very few people were on the internet. Now it's an indispensable way of life. And I look at something similar, that digital assets, not necessarily Bitcoin in particular, but digital assets are in such an infancy that right now, like, nobody's really using them. But if you look forward 20 years, they will be everywhere and they'll be an indispensable part of our lives. And we'll go, how do we ever live life without these things? And I'm hoping that I will be holding those the currency bags here of all of that. How many hours of research have you poured into crypto? Hundreds, thousands of hours, actually. I've immersed myself in it. I don't spend as much time on it now, but I will be getting back into it, really just to make sure that I'm dialed in on NFTs and that I have a lot of the DeFi stuff and staking down. Those are three areas that I'm very familiar with, but I wanted to get much more versed, especially with DeFi. yield farming. Those are very interesting topics to me. When you look at someone keeping their money in a bank account or a savings account making 1%, and I can take my cash, put it right next door, and be making 12 to 20%, it's like, why would I ever want to use a bank? What's my thoughts on nodes? I'm a fan of nodes. It depends on the system. So a node, depending on your term of node, there is basically running a node of Bitcoin. So for example, I have over here a full node running of Bitcoin, and what I'm trying to do is help out the ecosystem. That node has the entire blockchain. Every transaction that's ever happened is literally sitting within 1 foot of my reach right now, and I feel that helps out the system. So I might actually start running something to help out Ethereum as well. Richard says NFTs don't seem to be real, only a fad. Yes and no. I think that on the grand scheme of things, they're not a fad. It's a way to own and put property ownership to digital assets. The extent to which you're seeing people pay tens of millions of dollars for these things, and some celebrity takes a picture of himself in the bathroom and puts a digital signature on it, and now it does an NFT. Yeah, that's a joke. That's stupid. You heard Tom Brady is now starting up an NFT company selling celebrity signatures and things like that. That actually will have a place. I mean, people are clamoring to buy a baseball card that has Tom Brady's or somebody's signature on it. So I don't think it's a fad. I think it's completely blown out of proportion. But my thoughts are this. If you have access to a way to construct NFTs, and I'm actually working on it myself, make some NFTs. If you got some artwork or something that's proprietary to you, put it on an NFT and sell it. If someone's going to pay you $5,000 or $1 million for it, then go for it, right? Why not? Who cares? Capitalize on the fever that everyone's throwing behind this thing and utilize it. I think personally it'll definitely slow down, but there will always be property rights. And digital property rights are something I think is going to become much more important. For example, real estate. Our property rights, our deeds will probably all be on a blockchain at some point in the near future. Why? Because you just don't trust title companies. It's a trust thing. So anyway, I can go on and on about that. Alan says, think NFT blockchain will experience a similar run up to the internet leading up to 2000. We could make the argument that it already has, right? If you look at the parabolic move that's been happening in crypto, especially over the last 3 months, that's very 2000-ish. Not saying it's going to crash. I think you'll certainly have some pullbacks along the way. But what it means to me now is that this thing is gaining mainstream attention. It's now really starting to heat up. I'm so glad that Elon Musk is on board with the digital movement and the understanding of digital assets and how it could potentially impact the world. And he's on board with it too. As soon as others happen, like I say, next week, I'm really excited to see if any of these financial firms are adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet, because now they'll have to disclose it. That could be very interesting for the whole market segment. All right. We need an NFT class. Is there a reliable place? You don't really need an NFT class. It's not like it's that complicated to understand, Alan. I will probably just I'll do a light version here, and then I'll probably do a much deeper dive in the class that I'm building. But it's really not that complicated, man. NFT is basically take any digital item, you upload it, and now it is a one-of-a-kind token. Or you tell how many of it you want there to be. Like Brendan bought, I think Brendan, you bought a Snoop Dogg made a token, a little gold shimmery little token that has his dog face on it. And I don't remember how many of those are there, Brendan. Was there a couple hundred or a couple thousand? Basically, he didn't even make this artwork. He probably just had somebody drafted this little coin and uploaded it and said, I want to make X amount of these. Here you go, sell them. And they sold like hotcakes, right? It's a collectible now because there is a limited amount. You saw that picture by Beeple sell for $67 million. Why? Because the guy who bought it he's a billionaire because of Bitcoin. He put all his money into Bitcoin, $5,000 worth of Bitcoin back in, I think, 2009 or something, or 2010, and now he's a billionaire, and he wants to promote and support the whole ecosystem, so he's buying everything he can. NFT will sell. No one's going to buy a Merlin NFT. Okay, so there's 5,000 of them? Holy cow, and yours was, if you want, you can disclose the price there, just so you can say it, because I don't want to say how much you paid for it, and I don't put your personal information out there, but that would give this... Basically, Snoop Dogg just made $1 million. Boom! Issue an NFT, make $1 million. Wow, that's nice. Rareable, yeah, there's a couple other ones. Oh god, Yeah. No, I can't think of them off the top of my head. I got a whole list over this other on my other work computer over here, so I'll have to do it another time. All right. If you do I'm not. What would I do with TraderMerlin a drop of? I don't know what I would. Who wants this an NFT of me, right? I don't get that. But I mean, I love that your enthusiasm and optimism for it. Okay, so 216. So let's say Brendan paid 216. There's 5,000 of these things, and he paid 216. Obviously, you can tell right away it's gonna be over $1 million. But that netted him about $1.1 million for this, and it's the easiest thing that Snoop Dogg has ever done. He's probably never done anything easier. He basically said, turned to his one of his graphic artist friends. He's got this big old blunt in his fingers. He's like, "Hey, Matt, why don't you make me a picture? I want a coin, and I want a dog on it. Right? I want Snoop Dogg on that. And make me that." Guy makes him a little picture. Probably takes him 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour to build this cool little token-looking thing out there, and then they upload it to one of these sites, issue it as an NFT. Say, hey, I have 5,000 of them, auction them off, and there you go. Bob's your uncle. Boom, easy. And people are capitalizing on it big time right now. And I think that if you have that opportunity, do it. Do it. Cool. All right, that's going to do it for me, guys. I got to go. I was going to try to wrap this up 15 minutes ago. But no, here we are getting close to 1 hour yet again. All right, it is the Friday show tomorrow. Anything you guys want to talk about? I'll have total carte blanche to talk about whatever you want. As you can see, every show this week has been driven by listener comments or suggestions of things that you want to know more about. So if you have something that you want to know more about, you know the routine. The email is on your screen, TraderMerlin@gmail.com. You can send me your comments, questions, suggestions, things you want to see do better there. Great. I'm all ears to pretty much everything. I just need to do better at reaching out to get the guests that you guys have suggested all the time. So that will do it for me for today. Hope you guys have a fantastic trading day tomorrow. Be ready for a little bit of a market sell-off, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.